Elden Ring really does feel like a victory for the gaming industry. It feels like the finale to what GTA 5 started and what Breath of the Wild continued. What I mean by that is that despite Elden Ring's flaws, of which there are many, it rises above them, delivering such a ridiculously complete open world experience that just feels really rare nowadays. This is the same for the other two games I mentioned. Both are open world games, and both are considered incredibly instrumental in both creating and inspiring other developers to create that open world feeling. GTA 5 was just leaps ahead of the competition in how detailed its world was. There's just so many weird things that you can do, as well as a fun game to come back to when you're done with the weird stuff. That kind of completeness in an open world game was pretty much unheard of at the time. Breath of the Wild just expanded on that idea with a fully detailed world, but also just creating so many moments where you can just appreciate the quietness. Elden Ring has come along at a point where open world games are pumped out at such a stupid speed, with so little effort put into each game to distinguish itself from the competition, which is why I am just surprised that Elden Ring can rise above the Drake heap and deliver something maybe not new, but amazing. Elden Ring somehow manages to blend the quiet moments of Breath of the Wild, where you ride your horse across Limgrave just basking in the light of the Erd Tree, with the details of GTA 5, where each little corner will always have something waiting, and then somehow, despite literally all of the odds against it working, squishes it all together with that amazing, just extremely rewarding RPG combat that the Dark Souls series is famed for. The highest compliment I can pay this game is that it works. It's a creative, extremely risky approach to an open world game, but it works. If I was to go through every single little moment in this game that made me sit back in my chair and go, whoa, this is what a game can be with this much effort put in, this video would be 8 years long. So instead, I just wanted to talk about a few of the controversial topics circulating and kind of explain, in my opinion, why they can or can't be excused. First off, the PvP. Simultaneously, the most and least fun I've ever had in a Dark Souls-esque PvP scene. There are just so many spells and weapons that literally break the game. So many things are, to use the big buzzword, overpowered, and that is what I love about the PvP scene. You go against one just completely BS build, and you can make a build that directly counters it, and also manages to be BS as well. I love it. This is the largest variety the Souls community has ever had in viable builds. Strength builds can use ashes like Bloodhound Step to close the distance. Magic builds have even spammier spells than before, and some super viable close range spells too. Faith builds are the coolest they have ever been in a series by far. Arcane builds, moving on. There will always be a group of people in the Souls games that just complain at every change. You know the type. This game is bad because I can't spam Stars of Ruin against someone using Bloodhound Step or Carrion Retaliation. I think it's all just white noise at this point. The PvP, while flawed, is the most well-rounded FromSoft has ever created. Purely because for once, there's a billion viable options, instead of just 2 or 3. The only thing I would change, or well, want to come in the future, is a dedicated PvP arena, or something similar. Like the jewels in DS3, but not bad.
Is the most well-rounded FromSoft has ever created.
The thing is though, when you read bad Elden Ring reviews, they're not talking about the PvP when they dislike the game. At this point, everyone in the world has just created the neural pathways in their brain to ignore the consistent group of people saying that such and such is broken, or such and such breaks my own BS build. No, what people really have a thing or two to say about Elden Ring is its PvE. Namely, the bosses. hot take for a second. The bosses in Elden Ring are perfectly balanced. For Elden Ring, yeah. Some have terrible attacks, some don't let you have any downtime at all, and some just straight up are annoying. But all those things I just said, the big buzzwords in that sentence, they apply to a Dark Souls game. Elden Ring is a Souls-like, not a Dark Souls game. The bosses are, for literally the first time ever in the Souls/whatever series, perfectly balanced around summoning, and specifically the Ash summons. That's the part people get confused at. Summoning has always been a great area in the Souls series. It can trivialize the bosses in any game, and is really only there just to be able to play with your friends and do online stuff. While it is a staple of the series, and I love it, it has never ever been balanced. So a good portion of the player base ignored summons for most of the series, and had a great experience, myself included. Which is why it's so jarring to come to Elden Ring and find these bosses that can squish you with a look and realize, hey, wait, for once this game is actively telling me you should use this. Not just because it's fun, but because we want you to. The closest thing I can relate this kind of effect to is the transition from Dark Souls to Sekiro, and how incredibly different Sekiro is. Just like Elden Ring though, Sekiro literally never stops giving you hints as to how you're supposed to play the game. In Sekiro, that meant emphasizing aggressive, stylish combat. In Elden Ring, the player is given such an enormous variety of summons, with the point being that you experiment. You see what works, what doesn't, and what is busted when used with a particular build. In other words, Elden Ring gives you freedom, literally unparalleled by any other Souls game. It is such a cool mechanic, but the Ashes are overlooked because people have just instinctively avoided them due to how it operated in the Souls series. It's really quite sad, because it is such a cool feeling finding that perfect solution to the Malenia-shaped puzzle in front of you. With Ash summons, Malenia, Malekith, Godskin, and any other boss that comes to mind all become this amazing little war, where your carefully chosen forces are against just this incredibly intimidating fight. I genuinely adore both the Malekith and Malenia fights, but I also agree with the fact that undertaking them solo, while easily possible, is not actually how you're supposed to experience the fight, as you're missing out on this whole raid boss aspect of Elden Ring. The summons are the most unique part of Elden Ring, and it makes me feel kind of sad that it's just so easily overlooked. And I think the reason they are is because no one is really seeing Elden Ring as its own separate game from the Souls series, which it very much is. The only thing I would change about it is removing Mimic Tear entirely. Using the summons should feel like you and your army against the world, not you and your bleed build tearing everything apart. That's the only flaw I honestly feel exists in the system. I've played Elden Ring for a good chunk of the last few months, and there is so much I can just say about it, so much to the point where I can't fully describe how amazing it is. Not just the fact that the game is good, but that it can sit on a pile of lazy open world games and still say, hey, I'm pretty neat. I want this to be the start of a new generation of games like this, where the developers really try their hardest. What a genuinely amazing piece of media. Hey, so if you made it all this way, welcome to the channel. I plan to just make a lot of video essay style content, so if you're interested in the kind of stuff that these guys make, stick around. I've got quite a large project in the works for another FromSoft game, so yeah, subscribe. Sorry, it's an order, just the way it is.